Greetings, Bannermen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broken Banners. Today, we have a tournament report, but done my way, so not as polished as Essad's, for the Wargamers Guild New Jersey qualifier that was done some time ago. The game is going to be myself playing Styr. Styr commander is not a fun commander to play against. You basically have to have boisterous charisma or figure some way to deal with him because what he does is he basically makes your opponent roll all the dice. So let's start this off. We have the Fen Warriors, which have hold the line. When the unit activates, target one enemy engaged with this unit. It suffers 2 hits and an additional hit for each of this unit's remaining ranks. It also has Taunt, which says when an enemy in long range activates, if they could attack or charge this unit and declares any other action, they become vulnerable and weakened. Styr in them gives them Iron Resolve and Fen Supremacy. Fen Supremacy is basically Lannister Supremacy, except it's Fen Supremacy. So when you take a panic test and you pass, your opponents take a panic test at whatever remaining ranks. That's how many minus, and then you have additional wound for each of your remaining ranks. So it's a nice tool to have. Not so great on good morale armies. Styr also brings around Styr's Vengeance, which is a start of any turn card. Target one friendly combat unit and attach this card to them until the end of the game. Kind of like the comeback mechanics like Lannister pays his debts. When a friendly unit is destroyed, place one order token on this card. While this card is a token, the attached unit gains. When this unit attacks, before attack dice are rolled, the defender becomes vulnerable. So it's just a good way to push through damage. Um, it's one of those cards you burn when you draw it. Then we have Fen Defiance. So it's when you perform a panic test. If they're in, they may re-roll any dice for the test, and if they're in short range of Styr, they automatically pass a test. If it targets Styr's unit, the enemy they engage with suffers 1 wound plus 1 wound for each of this unit's destroyed ranks. So if you're on your last rank, you could take 3 wounds off of them for the pleasure of attacking you. And then his money card is Final Strike, which we all know and love from the Baratheon deck. Basically, the amount of damage they put through to you on an attack, you send it right back over to that unit that attacked you. And if it's with the unit that was defending is in long range of Styr, they take it -1 to defense dice against those hits. So, you're saving on threes, suddenly you're saving on fours. So you got to be careful with those big attacks. And then here's one of the linchpin of the whole operation is the free folk trappers, more specifically hidden traps. Hidden traps is basically when your opponent activates, they get hurt, or you make movement difficult for them. So it's an order when an unengaged enemy activates in long range and performs an action, before resolving that action, you can choose to have that unit suffer a hit, +1 hit for each remaining of its ranks, and then, or they suffer -1 to movement until end of turn. So if you're trying to do like a max range charge, you could really punish them by saying, actually, you're not able to make that charge. So very, very good unit and very good order. Following Styr's unit, we have 2 units of Free Folk Raiders. I know I only have one on the screen, but to save space, I only put the one. So the first one has Borak attached. So Borak is normally a 2-point attachment, but with the Free Folk Raiders adaptive ability, it becomes a 1-point attachment, and he also brings Hidden Traps. He also brings Stalwart. So your Free Folk Raiders go from a 5-7 save to a 5-5 save, really enhancing their survivability. He also brings Borak's Boar for free. The Boar is kind of interesting because it is an activation. So if you're at 8, and if you were at 7 and this pushes you to 8, your opponent would get pass turns. But I was already at 8, so it doesn't make a difference. They're probably going to get it anyway, and having an extra unit on the board helps, charge blocking or holding a point. And in fact, the Boar can hold a point. Even though the Boar says it cannot grant victory points, that's only through victory through combat. Holding a point is a different story. If you look at the freedmen from the Targaryen side, it specifies they cannot grant victory points from objectives as well as from being destroyed. Something along those lines I don't have in front of me. You'll have to forgive me. However, Borak Boar has an interesting thing where it doesn't activate as normal. Basically, when Borak activates, the Boar immediately activates after them. So if Borak's off the board, the Boar can't activate. You can still perform an action if you use the NCU zones, but other than that, it's gone. He brings Sundering, and if the attack is completed, if it does any wounds, you restore a wound. It's pretty nice. It's a fun little pig to have. And then my other Free Folk Raider unit has a Skin Changer attached. Skin Changers have a ability where it's called Bonded Skin Changer, and it says at the start of each round, I may select a boar, eagle, or wolf, and then you see the unit's card effects. Now, mainly what I use it for is the eagle. So basically, at the start of the round, you put the eagle on an enemy tray, and every time this unit performs a maneuver, or march or anything of those nature once per turn. you may shift 2 inches with the relevant skin changer unit. It also gives stalwart. However, the bonded skin changer also brings the wolf, which makes it has to be put down in long range to an enemy unit, and it makes that unit suffer a disorderly charge on a 1 or a 2 instead of just a 1. And then finally, the bear, which basically you have to be engaged. You start the round with it. The bear drops down in the front or the side and makes 1 free attack action, and that's it. However, it has not activated, so you do get an activation out of it. But if that bear does die, you cannot use the bear again. So it's fine, I guess. And then you have Stalwart as well. So both of my Free Folk Raiders are saving 5/5, which is awesome. Following the Raiders, we have the Frozen Shore Bear Riders. Now, the Frozen Shore Bear Riders are a little bit interesting because it's a cavalry unit that instead of having 3 wounds per model, it has 4 wounds per model. So it's actually a 16 wound model. And you remember Final Strike, if they push through enough damage, I send it right back on over. So I could potentially send 16 hits right back at the opponent for the pleasure of existing. I've also included Mance Raider, Able the Bard. It's a 2-point attachment, and you stick it in an enemy unit, and when that unit activates, it suffers 1 hit for each of its remaining ranks. Sabotage and Subvert is also pretty sweet. It's once per game at the start of any turn. Your opponent may deal this wound, unit 1 wound, sorry. If they do, they place 1 condition token on the unit. It may not use orders or be the target of friendly tactics cards this turn, so it's a great way to disrupt plays. The NCU suite, we have Craster. Once per game, you can just restore 2 wounds to a friendly unit, and then he also has a replace effect where when he claims the zone, he can replace it with draw a tactics card and restore 2 wounds to a friendly infantry unit. So a pretty great way to maintain some momentum or claw back if you're behind. Lady Dala is an interesting one as well, mainly for her bag's ability. So once she claims a zone, before claiming the zone, you have to do what she says if it's one of her related zones. So instead of the bag working as you heal 3 and remove a condition token. This says instead of removing a condition token, target 1 enemy engaged with that unit. They suffer a hit plus 1 hit for each remaining rank in this unit. So if I have a full rank unit, or let's say a 2 rank unit, right? And I heal 3, I go up to 3 ranks, and then I send 4 hits back at them. So it's a great way to make your opponent roll more dice than you in the worst way possible. Not a huge fan of her letters one, which basically says, instead of looking at the top 2 cards of your deck, you can look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, and you may discard one of those cards. So you might get lucky and nail something that your opponent really needs to get their engine going, but I'd rather have the 2 cards. And then the crowns just makes the crowns slightly better. It just makes one enemy becomes weakened. So what are you going to do? And then finally, Lady Val, great piece. Basically, another zone replace effect. When she claims a zone, any zone, a friendly combat unit may perform 1 maneuver or retreat action. So, let's say they had the horses, you can really sneak out a I'm getting the hell out of here move, or, I'm going to claim a point and catch your opponent unawares if they weren't paying attention. So really great NCUs. Mance is a lot of fun as an attachment. Like I said, really annoying for my opponents. So big fan. Now on Rich's side, we have a familiar face, Victarion Greyjoy Commander. So in the previous video I did Victarion versus Gregor, which I recommend you checking out. We had basically this template, right? So we have Sundering with Silence Men, get Super Sundering if you have 2 pillage tokens, you have your morale debuff bubble. Every time you pass a morale test, you restore a wound. Great Victarion has Overrun. Furious Charge gets in there, puts out a vulnerable token, and gives the unit Vicious, so you could be saving -2, -3. A really nasty piece of work. Rush of Aggression is one of his favorite cards. Basically, when you declare a charge, instead of rolling dice, you just go, okay, I get a 6. And then you get crit blow. If it's not Victarion's unit, you become vulnerable, but he usually just goes and flicks your units off the board with Victarion, and it doesn't really matter for him. Sustained Assault, um, it's when you become engaged, when you play the card, you get to roll your highest attack dice value, and if it targets Victarion, you can reroll attack dice. Any card that lets you reroll attack dice is a great, powerful, solid card and worth having. Sustained Assault is actually, I would imagine, also very good, just because, getting to push out more damage than trigger the overrun, it's huge if you get bogged down. And then lastly is Assault Orders. So basically, you can replace a zone with an NCU with this card, and you can make a friendly unit make a combat action. If it targets Victarion, you do a charge action instead. So the base deck for Greyjoys has We Do Not Sow, which is an extra attack. They have 2 of them. So now you have 4 attacks in the deck, 2 times from Assault Orders, 2 times from We Do Not Sow. The damage she can push through is enormous. So slightly different from that Greg v Vic video. Here we have Ironborn Reavers with Baylor Blacktide. So Ironborn Reavers, great 5-point infantry, really aggressive, putting that vulnerable token out when you charge in, and then you get those 2 pillager tokens you can reroll on the attack dice. Just absolutely fantastic. Baylor pumps it even higher, so boldness and courage. If you're at full ranks, max pillage, you're throwing 9 dice on an attack just for the pleasure of attacking. He also brings unyielding. With that terrible morale, it really helps your survivability. Following this, we have the House Harlaw Reapers. They have Vicious, Prey, and Fear. When your opponent fails a panic test, you may restore wounds and Reaper's Fervor. Each time this unit performs a melee attack before rolling attack dice, if this unit has 2 pillage tokens, the defender becomes panicked. And if they fail the panic test from this attack, they suffer an additional wound. Great way to push through more damage. Asha is the 2-point attachment Asha. She has Sentinel and Gang Up. So remember that Ironborn Reavers I told you about earlier? Asha comes on in, is engaged, and the Reavers come in. Instead of throwing 9 dice on the attack, you're throwing 10 dice on 2s. It's like a murder machine built in with Gang Up. And then Sentinel, same thing. You thought you were safe? Sentinel charge in. House Harlow Reapers at full ranks. You're throwing 9 dice on 2s. It's pretty brutal. And then we have Carl with Expert Duelist. I'm a big fan of Expert Duelist, not to destroy enemy attachments, just to put through that wound. So simply because it forces your opponent to go to the panic test. If you don't trigger a wound and they pass all their armor saves, no panic test. So great way to push through more damage, which seems to be a theme. And then I would only do the 5-up destroy that attachment on something that is high value. So, maybe Styr or I would take out, or Borak. Borak actually would probably be number 1 if I could get to him if I was running this. And then, Borak number 2, Styr number 1. Absolutely, because all of his cards want to have Styr on the board. And finally, we have the rich classic Euron Greyjoy attachment in Ironborn Bowman, giving them 2 victory points out the gate. Divide the spoils, lets him jam those victory points down the throats of his other units, and he has poison gifts. So every time he activates, he's going to take a wound. He can also take another wound with his order when he activates, and he can target a unit in long range, and they get a condition token, an enemy unit specifically. Very good. Aaron Greyjoy, influence, basically every time you perform an action, you restore a wound, and if you destroy an enemy rank with a melee attack, you restore an additional wound. Great way to counteract Euron's detriments and get those 2 victory points early. And then if you need to send your Aaron to sit on somebody else that needs the healing. Balon, the bane of all opponents of Greyjoy, one of the best NCs out there. Basically, if your unit gets destroyed, Balon gets to do a once per game when he activates and put that unit back on the board, fully stacked with all of its pillage effects, fully healed up. Now, an interesting thing about Balon, though, if Balon brings a unit with Abel the Bard still attached to it, Abel the Bard comes back. So you cannot avoid Abel the Bard by killing your unit. Roderick, classic Greyjoy NCU, has 2 order tokens. At the start of any turn, you can remove a token, draw cards, +1 of what you currently have, put the other ones to the side, and then basically you can stack your hand. So if you're looking for what does that mean ever die, assault orders, rush of aggression, those cards, Roderick makes it happen. So you can fairly consistently build the hand you want to do battle. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So we were playing a Game of Thrones, and Rich won the roll-off for terrain pieces. So he's got a few things to consider. He goes with the Corpse Pal, helps leverage Victarion's damage to the 9s as well as the Reapers. I drop the Bogs down, my favorite piece of terrain, slows down those filthy fast Greyjoys. Rich drops down a Werewood tree, make his life better, and then I drop down a Werewood tree near my deployment currently where I stand. However, on the roll off, I won the roll off, so I chose a side. I chose his side, and then I made him deploy first. So currently he is figuring out what he wants to put down. He has a lot to think about. The first unit drop down is always difficult, and I believe he dropped down Reavers. I decided to drop down Styr and the Fen Warriors. May not have been Reavers, may have been Victarion himself. It's difficult to tell, so my apologies there. I follow up. I put the trappers next to Styr, make my life easier. Rich responds by grabbing his Reapers and putting them next to, I believe that's Victarion. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. He's measuring out, making sure that he's got the perfect Sentinel web. Jan grabs his unit of raiders with the skin changer. You can tell it's a skin changer because it's the only painted model. I haven't had a chance to paint my free folk yet, so Rich grabs his last tray. It's going to be Baylor with the Reavers and basically just puts them on the opposite side of the Skin Changers um, unit. So he's just covering his bases. I'm a fan when I play into Free Folk trying to delete one corner of the board and then rolling in to take care of the rest. And Victarion really helps this happen because he has those extra attacks, which is what you really need to push the Free Folk off the points. I grabbed Borak with the Raiders and I set them up um, on that side of the board. And then I grabbed the Bear Riders, put them between Borak and Styr, and then I just dropped down the boar. So we're starting off the round. I drop the Eagle onto Baylor's unit, and then I activate Lady Dala and I take the horses moving up Borak. Rich responds by taking Aaron, and influencing them onto Euron's unit and taking the bags. He also then follows up with Balon's unit on the crowns. Um, I decide to march up Borak's unit with the raiders. Um, I'm measuring very carefully because I don't want to get shot to shit by them before the start of round two. They're going to get shot, but I got to prepare for not getting shot this round. And then Borak's just going to move up and then take the other point. Um, Rich activates his archers and just moves them up pivots so that he can set himself up for a round two swords attack success. Um, I activate the bears and basically just go. I'm going to move up next to the raiders and then threaten that center point as well as threaten the archers. Rich activates Victarion and takes the 3 wounds from Abel the Bard, then plays Raiding Call and pulls 3 wounds off of the bowman and sticks them right back onto Victarion. Since he has the bags, he also gets to put out a pillage token, which he does do so. And I believe he also plays Divide the Spoils to move another pillage token over. Something like that. He somehow got 2 pillage tokens. Who knows? Then he activates Victarion, moves him up straight down the board. Victarion, he can really chop through some damage. So huge threatening piece to have in the center of the board. Remember that -2, -3. He's fully activated. He's engaged. He's ready to fight. Jan activates Styr, moves him up to protect the bear's flank, as well as offer a slight angled position so that the bears will see Victorian, even though they have a cavalry maneuver, which is good practice. And then fighting over the center of the board. So Rich is now measuring out Baylor's unit of Reavers, and he is just going to, I believe, march them up. Basically be on the point, if not next to the point, and that's just the way it's going to be for him. Keep it easy. He has an entire next activation to collect that point. So the Jan responded, or me rather, with the skin changer and moves up the raiders up to claim the point. Uh, Rich is going to be playing Finger Dance on Asha's unit, the Reapers. Finger Dance is really bloody annoying to deal with, you know, constantly just dumping out condition tokens and other effects. And then he just moves them up onto the corpse pile without a care in the world. I respond by activating my trappers and then pivoting them in to Styr's side arc. So, hidden traps is long range, unengaged unit in long range, doesn't be in line of sight. And then just rock and roll. And then Jan just takes Lady Val, drops her on the swords, moves up, and then threatens the archers. I'm going to be there fighting them anyway. Might as well close the distance. Jan takes Lady Dal in round two. Me, why am I talking in third person? Look at me, I'm crazy. And just basically takes the horse and moves the raiders up with Borak. Rich is going to take Aaron and shoots with the bowman into the raiders. However, doesn't able to put too much damage through. Jan activates Craster, replaces the wounds, and then heals basically everything that was taken off. Rich takes Roderick on the letters, puts out a weakened token on the raiders. I respond by taking Lady Val on the crowns, replacing with a maneuver. Basically, just getting the bears out of the range and just turning to face. So now everything's activated in the NCU suite, and we're just here for good times. So Rich activates his archers and declares a charge. Hidden traps do a ton of wounds to him, and he charges on in, trying to hold up the raiders. They're disorganized, so if he can push through like even a little bit of damage, which he did, brings me to 2 ranks. It's huge. Uh, I activate Styr and basically just wiggle him to the side, and then I play overwhelming assault on the raiders. Borax Raiders and then attack in. Rich had used a pass token, so that's why it looks like nothing has happened, but some things have happened. Rich is going to be playing Finger Dance on Victarion, and then he plays the Iron Price onto the Bowman. Now, he had a Pillage token on them. I believe he had two Pillage tokens on them, so he's going to take him off and heal a Fat 4, really staying in the fight. And then he drops a Assault Orders, or sorry, Rush of Aggression, takes the Able to Bards hit and then a Hidden Traps hit and runs right into Styr. So Styr manages to survive, and I drop the Final Strike, which basically killed Victarion's unit. Rich is thinking about it. Does he want to do what does Dead Man Ever Die? What does he not? He decides not to play the card. Good knowledge for me to have because now I know he does have what is Dead Man Ever Die, and I do get a victory point for that. And then I'm going to use Crassers once per game and then heal 2 wounds and then back up. So great play for me. I didn't have to do anything. Rich just had to attack me. I'm going to activate my trappers and just wiggle them around. And then Rich is going to play another his Rush of Aggression and charge in with Baylor Reavers into the front arc of my Skin Changers. So I had put the Wolf on them, thinking that maybe I could get him to roll a 1, but Rush of Aggression, you roll a 6. So he just basically was like, I'm out of here. So I took a ton of wounds on the attack. I do manage to pass the panic test. That stalwart really showing its value here. And now Rich is tied up. He's off the point, and he's engaged with a unit of raiders for 4 points. So if I can get a score of 1 victory point off of this, I'm in real good shape. And that's what I do. What do I do? I think I retreat back, so I don't score a victory point. Yeah, I retreat back, but deny him the point and deny him the kill, and he's still threatened by them. It's what you do what you got to do. And then Asha Karl moves up and threatens the center of the board, the Skin Changers, and stuff like that. So um, Rich is not too worried about Balon. Victarion. Balon's just going to bring him back next round, so not much you can do. I move up my Bear Riders and claim the center point, increase the amount of points I can score, and we just rock and roll. So Rich is actually, now this is the next round. Rich does drop Balon and then drops Victarion right on the side there. One of the cards let me shift a unit a few inches, so I just shift Styr. Um, so I activate, I grab Lady Val, put her on the letters, weaken Victarion, and draw 2 cards. And then I'm going to put the Wolf onto Victarion, really try to make it difficult for him. Rich drops Roderick on the horses with Rush of Assault Orders charge, kills a unit of raiders, and then basically I run away with my trappers. They're in real trouble there. I take Craster on the swords, replace effect, and heal Styr back up. I had also played Endless Horde on the trappers, and then I played coordination tactics between the trappers and Styr, make things difficult for Rich if he decides to attack me in any way. With Victarion, he drops an Assault Orders, charges on there, I can get Iron Resolve and Fence Supremacy. So, but Rush doesn't do that. He takes Asha's unit, charges into my bears, takes a Hidden Traps hit. You don't have to be unengaged, an unengaged unit when you make your action before the action resolves. So he does that, pokes a bunch of wounds through my bears, um, and then I take the with Lady Dalla on the bags, heal a bunch, and then send 3 hits back at Rich. I believe he only took 1. So then he activates Baylor and then turns him to face, trying to make that charge. He runs on in, makes the charge. This guy has some of the most OP dice in the game. He rolls consistently well. There's my Endless Horde drop on the Trapper, so my apologies on that. Rich does a ton of damage and actually clears the tray. So we're talking like 12 hits. Next Final Strike, dropping that down. So that's 12 hits coming right back to Rich, and he eats 11 of them. You can't have it always where you roll hot and you get to delete these trays. So Baylor stakes around with 1 HP, and I activate the trappers and just shoot them in the side arc with the short range attack, killing them. But then Rich plays What Does Dead Man Ever Die? Another coordination assault, tactics between the 2 units, trying to keep my bacon safe. Victarion charges in. He is successful. So rough city for myself there. Take a ton of wounds off the attack. Luckily, it does not kill the unit. Um, and that's all she wrote. And then I'm going to activate Styr and basically claim the center objectives, Carl and Baylor have both activated, so they are basically doing nothing. Uh, and I'm not threatened by them, and I'd rather have the VP. So Rich activates his Bowman, attacks at Borok, takes 2 wounds. They pass a panic test, all good stuff. I swing back, and he takes 1 wound, and then I think he passes the test. No, he fails the panic test. Look at that. And then he responds with his last NCU Amon, drops it for an assault orders, makes another attack into my trappers, taking another bunch of wounds off of them. Man, they're really getting slaughtered here. Taking on the panic test, not great panic result, but I only take 1 wound off of it. So that's a real good feel good moment for me. And messes him up. So I'm going to take Lady Dalla on the bags, and I'm going to heal Borok's unit and do the wounds to Rich's engaged Euron, getting me a victory point. Rich is going to activate Roderick and the swords and just going to raw attack with Victarion. I knew it was going to die. It wasn't worth sending in the 3 wounds into Victarion's unit and to the trappers. So but I got a victory point out of it, so that's good. Victarion overruns into Styr, and then basically doesn't kill him, and then I drop Styr's Vengeance, so it lets me reroll panic dice rolls, and then he's going to take wounds for each of my destroyed ranks. So he's going to take 3 wounds for the pleasure of attacking me. I drop my Endless Horde Raiders in. They come in on the side to Baylor, and then delete the trace. So another victory point for myself, and then I just surge forth onto the objective, and I'm basically going to get net myself another point because Asha is hanging out in the wind, and I'm not worried about it. She could turn around and fight me, but then I'm still scoring 2 victory points in the back there. So there's really not much he can do. Rich does activate Asha and goes in with the sorry, doesn't activate, takes the NCU zone and replaces it with Asha's movement. I take Craster on the letters. I believe I'm going to replace it and just heal 2 into Styr's unit. Try to survive with what little health I can. We're just going to activate Asha, take the full hits from hidden traps from Borok, but does make the charge. It was a long charge. Is unable to kill Borok. And then I take Lady Val and basically just fuck off back onto the point. So, I'm not scared. I'm in a good position. Victarion activates, takes 2 wounds off of Abel the Bard, and then I roll so hot that Rich has to walk around the table to check to make sure that I wasn't cheating. And I survive with 1 wound left. And basically, I'm just going to retreat onto the point, not fight, and score 4 victory points at the end of the round. And here we go, the handshake. So, yeah, it was a great match. Rich is a scary opponent, and I picked a list that meant I didn't have to roll as many dice as he did. And when I say that, I mean he had to roll a bunch of negative dice, while I could just roll neutral and get away with it. So again, Styr, really frustrating to play against. I do not recommend you bring him to like a local, Friday night game table. You're gonna make some enemies, but at a tournament, it's a different story. People bring their A games. So Rich definitely brought his, and it was nice finally taking a game off of him. So 2 thumbs up. And speaking of thumbs up, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It does help. We're trying to grow and be a community. We also have a Discord link in our set floating around. I believe if you go to like the About section, you can join our Discord and just chat with the boys. So, peace.